Okay, I'm Raho, and today we're going into the past because I want to figure out why Cloud9 had their slump, or if they even had a slump in the first place. So, with that in mind, we're going to be seeing Team Liquid versus Cloud9's Week 3 matchup, which happened on 10.12, in order to see if we can find any uh, differences in their play. Something that I think is kind of valuable to note is the Cassiopeia, just off the bat before we even look at anything else in the draft, is the Cassiopeia, which um, doesn't really create priority, doesn't really move to positions faster than any other mid lane champion, especially Twisted Fate. So this is a criticism that was levied against Cloud9's mid jungle duo, that Niski needed to be on a champion that can create priority, and this was something that was instrumental in their wins. Uh, we'll see if that actually carries through. As far as I'm aware, they do in fact win this game. So we'll see what that looks like in a winning effort, and if we can kind of identify um, things that aren't necessarily that have anything to do with Team Liquid, right? Because when you're trying to understand how a team works, you try to understand how they work and not how they work against specific opponents. So hopefully, we can kind of determine those things. That being said, draft time. uh, Fans. Yumi. Oh, right. This was a time when she was. Oh, no, she wasn't strong because that was last split. Uh, Yumi is a strong and annoying champion when attached to certain champions like Olaf. Volibear also follows that kind of same thing. She is weak laning wise because she doesn't actually provide pretty much anything. It's obviously reductive, but what she provides is a lot less than what another support could provide in the same spot. Varus banned. This was seen as something that needed to be banned constantly on red side. Makes sense. Just get rid of this champion. It was absurdly strong, almost oppressive. Now, to be fair, there probably were options that were available to allow this through, but I don't know if they were necessarily seen as um, actually viable. Also, we can see that the first three are not 80 carries, despite the only one 80 carry ban. So champions like Ashe that kind of picked up steam, Callista and Ezreal that picked up a lot of steam, Aphelios not picked during these first several picks is interesting. I don't remember him being nerfed until a little later. I'm pretty sure that Varus and Aphelios existed in the meta at the same time, so I don't know how that's working out. But next we have the Olaf ban, which is something that is directed at Blabber. I'm pretty sure it's actually still banned, even coming into playoffs and going into their um, second, second playoff match for Cloud9. So probably gonna also be seeing bans then as well against TSM, which will be their Worlds qualification match. Having a champion like uh, Olaf and Blabber together is it's annoying. It seems very annoying to play against. Then the Cinder ban. This was seen as a general pick in mid lane, so I mean, makes sense, fine. Volibear was picking up steam during this patch. I think he was released on this patch or just before this patch, a patch before this. So he was actually seen as a pretty good top laner and jungler, kind of. But he was mostly, I think, seen in the top lane. So getting rid of it. Also, Licorice was one of the people who was willing to play um, more outside of the box picks. I guess, I mean, outside of what the general meta was, which for a very long time was Aatrox, despite a lack of general success on him throughout every region, uh, at least at the highest level of those regions. And then the Blitzcrank ban is weird because it doesn't necessarily. I actually have no idea why this is a ban. I think maybe Core JJ popped off in a recent match before this on Blitzcrank, so maybe that was their calculation, or maybe they just couldn't think of anything else to ban. Uh, so sure. The Graves first pick. Graves is really, really strong. I think this is pre the nerfs that he received after he was buff. That's I remember my patch history. Um, he was one of the better scaling junglers. You play around him, you can create a lot of um, what's the word? Not pressure, because he doesn't necessarily create pressure because he doesn't want to gank lanes. He wants to farm for the most part. And if Cloud9 make a mistake, he can of course gank a uh, a lane like that. But generally, it's fairly difficult for uh, Graves to get a hugely successful gank off on his own without like a dive of some kind. You can set him up for a lot of success in the late game, and he does have decent counter ganks. His 2v2 is pretty good with these two and with Twisted Fate. So I can see a lot of reasons why this would be a really strong pick. It was also very strong in solo queue during this time. Pretty sure he's still decent in solo queue, but he's just kind of dropped down in favor over time. Then the Thresh and the Set pick. I don't necessarily like this pick. I have no idea why this is being picked so early. And then Set at this time was considered very, very strong. Technically, it was a triple flex in jungle, top, and support, but they picked a support immediately. And again, which is just also kind of leans against why the hell did they pick this? Or sorry, not the Set. Why did they pick this? Um, unless they're seeing that hook champions are really problematic for core JJ, which could be the actual thinking. Now, they did leave up one hook champion eventually, so to be fair, I guess they didn't really get rid of all of them. Thresh also provides a lot of safety, so when you have a less than fully experienced AD carry, you could also argue that there's value in that. He can set up ganks very well with Twisted Fate, but that wasn't necessarily known at the time that at this pick. So it's interesting. I mean, he's a good general support, so it's not the worst, but it is a strange choice to make um, in this particular spot. And the Set, I mean, he's fine. He was considered actually fairly very. He was considered very, very strong. Um, so it's not the worst. It's a little. The thing is with Set, it's kind of the same thing with him now. He's obviously less picked in the top lane, but um, Set has this issue where if he doesn't have a good in to a team, or he doesn't have a team walking into him, or, walking into him, uh, then you're gonna have a harder time than you'd want to have as a Set. This isn't to say that Set's bad necessarily, but it might be a little early in the draft to pick Set unless you think it's unbelievably broken or unwieldingly broken, which I think at this time was considered pretty broken, so fair enough. Then Team Liquid pick Twisted Fate, which we you see now has become a very, very, very popular pick, something that's almost perma-banned across multiple regions because of the priority they can create on his own, as well as his global pressure around the entire map. I think that that is something that is really, really high value, and I'm surprised that it took so long for it to kind of show its head. I actually don't remember if he received a buff or nerf. There was some sort of itemization that started happening. I don't think there is. I think he kind of just like popped up, um, maybe due to a lack of specific counters. Not entirely sure. Was Syndra considered a really bad matchup for him? I know that Orianna's not necessarily a great matchup, but not something that you'd see banned or wouldn't be likely to be picked. So I don't necessarily know why Twisted Fate kind of returned to prominence. Regardless, he is now very prominent, and here I think that you can work around your jungler. This is a very good jungler enabling pick, as well as also side lane, top lane enabling. Now, their top lane choice was Aatrox, which um, isn't necessarily the kind of pick that you're like, we're gonna play around this pick. I guess you could, but it's not. Of all the things that you could play around, I think it's one of the less interesting, or not bad, but not as good as I think that teams were willing to admit, or were apparently picking him for. There's no way he was actually that good if he doesn't receive any nerfs and then just drops off the face of the earth. um, as far as I'm aware, he didn't receive nerfs. Maybe he did, and I'm just not remembering Aatrox specific patches, but um, pretty sure he went unchanged, and the meta didn't like wildly go against Aatrox. As far as I'm aware, maybe it did. I don't remember there being a specific reason why Aatrox would go away, other than teams finally have put in the practice to no longer need to pick Aatrox. But it was seen as like this really good blind pick for top lane. Now, it's not being blinded here, but it's okay. I guess technically you could argue that this is going top or jungle, which means that you could still see a pick here for the jungler, and then or for the top lane that would make the Aatrox a blind pick. Still, he's decent in a side lane. He's decent at team fighting. I understand the idea behind him. You put in enough practice, he has a lot of the tools that you'd want in a top laner, but he's not the best at any one particular thing, I don't think. He's just decent at pretty much every aspect of top lane, and then he can kind of skirt, and then people just like let him through because whatever. And then the last pick is Cassiopeia, which doesn't really fall in line with any of the other picks that were picked. Cassiopeia is actually really good into Aatrox, for the record, because then Aatrox's ability to walk into the opposing team is diminished by miasma. So flanking isn't super great for Aatrox here. Just generally going into the team is going to be pretty bad. Now, going back to Aatrox for just a second, I wonder what kind. I feel like Aatrox needs a lead in order to side lane super well into set. So there's another consideration too, that you're not going to create a lead with Graves. I guess the idea is that you're going to create a lead with Twisted Fate, and then you move Twisted Fate to the top lane to create a lead for the Aatrox. Will then be able to side lane against the set very well and be able to pressure, push back on that. Maybe. But the Cassiopeia pick negates any purpose for that. So that's hmm, kind of unfortunate. This is why Aatrox probably isn't necessarily the best blind pick. It's decent in its own lane if you just isolated the two laners, but then you have to ask, what can they do to make me not have fun? And Cassiopeia is one of the not fun champions that Aatrox can find himself against if you pick him too early. So not the worst, but it's definitely not a great setup. It's not the best at side laning. It's just okay at side laning. It's not really even a tank. I guess you could argue it's kind of a tank. Um, but yeah, the Cassiopeia doesn't necessarily have the hot. I mean, everything actually is being hard outranged by Cassiopeia currently. Um, but my concern is that if she isn't allowed to get to her items, or if Niski is stunted in any way, that could actually lead to some big problems already for Cloud9, because you have a champion that wants to start fighting at one item. I mean, this is an aggressive support, and then later on you see that they pick Lee Sin. So all of these people are like dragging Cassiopeia over the into mid game and into late game, and then they're like, all right, Cassiopeia, finally now you can do something. Um, Especially if they fall behind. So if they're ahead, then it doesn't. I guess it doesn't even matter, because then Cassiopeia will just pop off no matter what, I guess. But or she'll be able to still do her thing where she can stop a lot of what Aatrox wants to do, and she'll outrange the other two picks. So she'll be fine in that respect. But if she's behind, then you're kind of just like dragging this snake lady across uh, until she actually gets to where she wants to be, which isn't the best way to play. You generally, my thinking is that you generally want to play more congruent, where you all get the same power spikes, or general power spikes, item wise or level wise, timing in general. So maybe a champion hits a certain point at 25 minutes, where another champion uh, hits a certain item break at that same point. So maybe that's something that they work around. But like, this isn't doing that. It's just, I guess, being picked into this and this. So we'll see. Then the bans. Ezreal was banned because Team Liquid chose not to pick an AD carry. Cloud9 also chose not to pick an AD carry. I think that this was probably better here than the Thresh, because then you can threaten a Triflex with the set, and then you can also pick your own AD carry that you can then use as leverage to then ban more champions, or force them to pick their AD carry earlier, which then allows you to use bans on other things. But they went with this play instead. Uh, then, for some reason, we're banning Nocturne. I have no idea why. It doesn't make any sense at all. Uh, unless you can't use Gate during Paranoia. I actually do not know why that is being banned. Um, Maybe I can think of it. Uh, uh, Nocturne. Okay, Nocturne with these three champions. Uh, doesn't he doesn't want a Nocturne? I mean, maybe he wants a Nocturne, and maybe he wants a Nocturne. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know. No. Like, he would love to play against Nocturne, right? He'd love to play against Nocturne, and he's a farming jungler. He'd love to play against Nocturne. He's a farming jungler that outscales Nocturne. Nocturne is also a farming jungler for the first 6 levels, and then tries to do everything else, and then he goes back to farming, or tries to do something once he gets his paranoia, and then he goes back to farming. Again, reductive, but we're just trying to have a simple review here. Then the Kalista is banned. The split before it was seen as a top lane choice. I think that that's been basically removed. It's not as impressive. Actually, we saw it. Where did we see it? Did we see it in an A recently? Um, Regardless, the oh no. It was E1 versus a Freak of Freaks that would happened a few days ago. But the Callista is a pretty oppressive bottom laner. I can see why they might want to get rid of it. It also kind of falls in line with where Aatrox wants to spike, as well as giving the Twisted Fate extra options for moving around the map and affecting side lanes. So I can see why that would actually be you want to get rid of that. The Ezreal is less in line with that thinking. Uh, and by the way, the Graves is just becoming increasingly less appetizing to me. Like at first, I thought, oh wow, this is a pretty good first pick. You're enabling your jungler to carry later in the game. You're gonna pick stable lanes, don't necessarily need help, but can use the help if Graves can find it, but don't need it to function. And then you create a situation like this that does need help in order to actually play against this. Maybe I'm wrong about that actually, but it feels like it would want the assistants to get a lead so it can actually play against Set in the side lane more easily. And they're also picking this champion. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm thinking this would have been pretty good along with the Aatrox and the Twisted Fate, but then it wouldn't have made sense with the Graves. But it was something that was perfectly in line with what I thought Team Liquid might have done anyway. Then the Galio ban. I haven't the slightest idea. It's literally just throwing away bans. I'm pretty sure they were throwing away bans. Uh, uh, what? Am I missing something? Is Galio somehow like this? Is he support? What is this? Clearly throwing. They have to be throwing away bans. There's no way you can tell me that those bans are actually doing something other than just being blank and taking and not using that much time. Just leave them blank so that because there's no way that they're picking this champion. There's probably no way that they're picking this champion. So I have no idea what the logic is at all. Like the support. So let's think about what let's think about where this Galio. No, it's a throwaway ban. I'm not even gonna engage with it anymore. They just threw a ban away. Then Sven picked or not Sven. Then we see the Lee Sin, which falls in line with these two, but has no synergy whatsoever with Cassiopeia at all. The gank setup isn't really there in mid lane for Cassiopeia. She might be able to bully the Twisted Fate early and control the lane, but it's a little difficult to imagine that Lee Sin will be able to do anything to the Twisted Fate. It's fine with these two more aggressive picks, but this really is giving me a hang up as to how they're planning on working with this. If this was Galio, for the record, it would have made significantly more sense. But it's not a Galio; it's a Cassiopeia. So I don't know what I'm I don't know what I'm seeing. This is just an unfortunate. I don't know. This might just be an unfortunate product of trying to outrange the picks that you've already seen, and then you don't really have synergy with the rest of how your team wants to play the game. Because Cloud9 have been pinned down as this like mid game oriented, priority focused, early game team that snowballs after the first 15 minutes into just hitting every objective, and then they just win the game. But Cassiopeia doesn't fall into that narrative, but everything else in this draft does. It's like the odd one out. Then Team Liquid pick Nautilus, which, I mean, it works. It's fine. It pretty much works with everything else that you've already chosen. Um, Aggressive frontline support. It can set up for the Twisted Fate side lane play. Um, it can help set up for the Graves if he ever sees an opportunity. So there's some things there. I don't actually know how good this matchup is, for the record. Pretty sure it's not good for the Nautilus. Um, but it's probably not like a hard losing counter pick to themselves.
A lot. I do think that some of the other matchups, talked to some players, they feel like Caitlyn can be a really good matchup into Aphelios, but TL, I think, funny to just see how.
Okay, I saw that doesn't make any sense with the rest of the champions. So here's the thing. Kaisa is a Muramana building champion. Does really well with 3 items, I think is where she starts being very strong. But he wants to fight at 1 item. I mean, Twisted Fate, I guess, can fight at any point, not necessarily beholden to 1 item or any item actually. So it's whatever. But this is a 1 item champion that doesn't even work as an effective bridge because the champion he's against is higher value than him. Because, I mean, like this champion and this champion say we're gonna work for the much later game, but this champion tell me a completely different story. They say we're gonna fight at 1 item and you're gonna like it. And Twisted Fate is here as the only magic damage dealing champion. I guess Kaisa deals some magic damage, but not. Uh, she's fine. But the the only real magic damage dealer is the Twisted Fate, assuming he goes that build, which I have no reason why he wouldn't, especially when you're gonna get outranged. So the auto attack focus build isn't necessarily that great. So this build, so the AP build is what we're gonna go with Twisted Fate. They're gonna build so much MR. They're guaranteed to build. That's a Merc Treads. That's a Merc Treads. That's gonna be a Merc Treads. It might be a Merc Treads. Probably gonna be a Stork Shoes. That's a Merc. This is a Merc Treads. Like the only person who's not gonna build Merc Treads is. No, I guess they don't because there's so much AD, right? They have to. There's. I guess it's knockups, right? The CC is knockup based. No, they're not gonna build Merc Treads. No. Maybe Niski builds it for his lane. Maybe. Probably gonna build Stork Shoes. No, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. I have no idea. I actually don't know why I thought they would build Merc Treads, for the record. Like looking back, I'm like looking 10 seconds in the past. I'm like, why did I think that they would build Merc Treads? No, they're not gonna build that. They're not likely to build all Merc Treads. So this is fine. This isn't going to be a side lane you're going to be focusing on, so I would assume that a lot of the focus is going to be on Aatrox, who will then hopefully be able to bridge them to the later game, is the idea behind it. I'm pretty sure that's how this composition is going to work. Their team fights okay. Hmm. Hmm. The issue is that they're just getting out. They're getting hard outranged by this Cassiopeia. Like Kaisa didn't solve the problem at all. At all. The Nautilus didn't solve the problem at all. No one is solving the problem. They're all still outranged by Cassiopeia. So Cassiopeia gets so much value. For the record, Gallia would have been fine in this spot too. because they're all fairly close range, and Galio would be able to reach them and be able to do a decent amount of damage. Or even if they're short range, they're going to pile on top of, let's say they pile on top of Thresh for some reason or whatever, which they shouldn't, but because they're generally short range, the hero's entrance is large enough that even if they're not physically just on top of each other, they'll still be within the hero's entrance um, circle if they're picking people off, which seems to be a lot of what these champions want to do. But they just basically like turn their blinders off and didn't look at this. This is how they picked. Because there's no way that this tells me they weren't looking at what they picked. They okay, this isn't TL focus. I'm losing the narrative
following.
here.
It's like, well, if you're gonna.
Okay, it's Cassiopeia. That's what I thought.
Okay.
So that's what I was
Cassiopeia
gonna
bot.
say. I don't know how common Cassio is into Aphelios or in bot lane in general, but the one player I have seen do it frequently.
I see. You know what? I didn't even consider that. So maybe this pick doesn't seem that bad. Maybe this band doesn't seem that bad. This one, no, 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 no. I'm not excusing this one. This one doesn't. This one still doesn't make any sense. But Zoe, the Galio, I guess, makes some sense if you think that this is possible. Which I guess, to be fair, at this time it was seen as. I think that it had happened a couple of times in spring. I don't know how prevalent it was in summer. I don't think it was very prevalent at all. But let's just let
Particularly
the
into
picks
Aphelios
go into their
a couple
actual
of times
spot.
already, and I was
Right, everyone's there. So the Zoe pick is interesting because here's the thing. If Sven on Cassiopeia is the only magic damage dealing champion, does that make it higher value? Zoe, by the way, can create the priority that is necessary to function properly. And if you assume that your bottom lane is going to be left on an island, which it probably is based on the way that this is drafted, because Twisted Fate is never going down this way unless there's just like a super juicy opportunity, but it's not likely to happen, especially when it's Cassiopeia bottom into these two. But if Jensen's always going to be moving top side, then these four champions are going to be left in an island, and there's no problems with Jensen, or sorry, not Jensen, with Sven getting to where he wants to be, I guess. Um, if I mean this adds another mix of damage. You can create priority using Zoe, so she can also match topside maybe. She can move down bottom for dives. I think those are potentially viable with the Lee Sin. So everything I just said, scratch it, because Cassiopeia is going bottom, and the mid jungle duo will be able to actually 2v2 into this. So is it that much of an improvement? I think that the Gallia would have been better, obviously. Um, but the question is that does it actually make Cloud9 team that much better? I guess it does. Um, yeah, they're gonna be pretty focused on the one item. I don't know. I mean, Sven's gonna be just left behind in this scenario, but he's gonna be more utility focused for a little bit, for a lot of it, frankly. I don't actually think he's gonna be the main focus of this. He's not gonna do anything. He's not making decisions. He's just Cassiopeia. He's along for the ride. I mean, Cassiopeia was gonna be along for the ride with the rest of the champions anyway, so this is fine. it's actually better that it's on bottom lane than in mid lane, I think. But I mean, Cloud9's team is basically impossible to walk into, right? So Aatrox being enabled is useless. Graves, fairly short range champion, and will not be able to get into this team very easily due to miasma, due to the paddle stars, due to, I mean, Lee Sin kind of, and especially due to the set. So like all of the laners are actively already against two of the champions on Cloud9. So Jensen ends up having to be very important to this because he has to snowball probably both lanes. He probably should now switch focus down to the bottom lane because the Cassiopeia is picked because you're not actually going to put focus down into her. Or is made. I mean, she's probably going to be bottom lane the whole time for Cloud9, but I don't think there's an out for Team Liquid for the record. I'm pretty sure they just hard lose draft. They just hard lost. Because there's just nothing. They didn't interact with Cloud9's draft. Like, even if you say, okay, well, yes, they knew that the Cassiopeia was going to go bottom, and they got rid of the Galio, which is fine. The bans were fine, except for this. Everything was like, okay, sure. Except for this. But then you look at the champions that they picked, and nothing seems to say, all right, we see that you could pick this champion, or we see that you did pick this champion. Here's our answer. Kai'Sa is not an answer to Cassiopeia bottom, if they knew that that was happening. I mean, maybe you could argue it is because she'll scale with the Cassiopeia, but her range is too short. She's not going to be able to get to the points where she wants to be before these guys snowball the game. I guess if they don't snowball the game, then it's going to be fine. But you're going to be losing out on early dragons. You're going to be losing out on early objectives. Not just because you're Team Liquid and their early game has always looked suspect throughout this year, but because the draft tells you that that's what's going to happen. Because Lee Sin is going to use the priority created by all of his lanes, literally every single one, to aggress onto the map and make it difficult for Team Liquid to want to go to the objectives anyway during the early game. If you start down 2 dragons on Cloud9, then you're going to have a problem coming back at all with Kai'Sa ever. But looking like a long one. Not a long one. This is just the end. This might have been just like the end of the day for, yep, it was. So, let's go.
I was thinking like
38 minutes on
always
this
known
draft
for his
for no
majors,
reason.
has not played at this split, but that Cassio I think was a flex the whole way down, and actually they've decided that they'll just take it here, even after the Aphelios bait didn't work.
Things like Casio does really trade things.
I guess Cassiopeia would have been really good into the Aphelios, so again, you could argue that that's
an opportunity to maybe take Aphelios there if they
an
wanted
answer,
it,
but it doesn't mean that they...
Cassio is this Zoe here for Niski. So if you're
I'm not saying that they literally just put their blinders on and didn't look at this at the champions and then random champions that, you know, whatever, but like ultimate bravery. But that the way that they interacted with the draft doesn't seem to make sense with what they thought was going on. So even if they did think, okay, well, Cassiopeia's going to go bottom, and Aphelios is going to have a difficult time into Cassiopeia. I don't know how Kai'Sa is solving this issue. I don't know how Nautilus is solving this issue. I don't know what you expect them to do at any point in the game. I don't know what you expect Aatrox to be doing.
Yeah, it is.
Into set anyway,
especially post 6,
unless
can be that first one
I'm going to watch this game and watch this Aatrox just absolutely body this set.
Spring was his Lee Sin kick, you know.
To which, you know what I say?
We've seen him
good.
have some pretty
I learned something.
on this champion. Yes, he has been more reliant on the Olaf so far this split, but it's obviously not that he can't play the other champions. It's more just that he feels like that is the strongest one in this current meta. So I'm going to be interested to see how it does work out, and I kind of have more eyes on this bottom lane. How is Sven going to perform on the mage? how are they going to be able to perform in this 2v2 where you have to be fairly passive early on.
Niski already
Cassio
moving
can get
to
pressure,
put down a
and
ward
especially when you're
on
playing against
here,
TF, there's always the worry of
which
those
will
plays
protect
where you
him, but it
lose
doesn't really give
control
him
of that
information as
bottom
to
lane
the
where you
jungler's
get set
location,
up on, where there's a
unlike
four-man
the
dive
Raptor
happening.
ward would
And
have,
Cassio pre-6 doesn't have
which
a lot
frankly
of ways to really
is
kind of keep
probably the
yourself
better
safe,
ward. I'm not entirely
if you are
sure
getting
why
a
he
lot of
went with
jungle
this
attention
ward
against something
here.
like a Nautilus, who can set up so
What
well
is
for
he?
those junglers, set up so
Because
well for the
Graves
TFs.
isn't going to go for a
and
level
unlike,
2
you know, say,
gank.
mid lane where you would have the option maybe of taking cleanse, Sven's taking
Graves
TP
going for
here,
a full
reflecting
clear,
he almost feels
slightly
like he has to
faster
when
than
playing this,
Lee Sin
main bot lane,
is
so
on
doesn't have
no
that option to
leash,
get
I
out.
think.
Certainly will have a bit of
So
extra safety from Vulcan's Lantern, but we'll see how it all plays out. I know Crumbs' most common criticism of Lee Sin is that
going
they don't
super great.
kick people enough. Whereas in the LPL,
Seems
that's
to be
all they
pretty
do is find
set
flash kicks on people.
favored.
I think Crumbs can at least be rest assured that if there's any player in the LCS that will use kick as often as he can, it will be Blabber.
Yeah, Blabber's definitely going to make something happen. You
Okay.
can count on him
They're
looking for fights
just
non-stop.
pretty much
and
matching.
I
Graves
think
is
a large
ahead on
reason
the
that Zen
play.
is actually playing
Licorice
TP is
could
due
have
to some of
gone
the mana
for
issues that
a
we talked
recall,
about
but he
early
decided
on.
to move
You
down
don't wanna
to
get stuck in an
identify
extended
the
lane where you run out of mana,
jungle
you
camps
get
that were
pressured
completed,
there, and then you're kind of stuck
which
under your turret trying to farm
I feel
no
like
mana. That can be
isn't
pretty difficult for Cassio,
necessary if Niski
especially when
goes
you
for
are
the
starting
ward
with
on the
Sapphire
Raptors
Crystal.
rather than
It's very
on
easy to get
this
to a quick tier and then look for
camp
base
here.
on that.
Blabber is
We can
crossing
see
over
C9 is trying to
the
move towards the scuttle,
mid
but
lane,
Jensen, nice little
isn't
sidestep.
Really good
really,
movement overall. He's going to
Ooh.
stun up Niski
anything.
as well, get a little bit of a trade
Does
back.
get a bit of
Paddle
damage
Star does
here.
connect, but it's
They
Spellbook
know
versus
that
Spellbook here in mid,
Graves is on this
becoming,
side.
increasingly
What is he doing?
the keystone of choice for almost all mid laners, so nothing aggressive. As some moments are exchanged, which I do appreciate very much.
Yeah, I like Jensen's confidence, right? He is an incredible player, and despite the fact that Niski
I think this
had
is
a better spring.
okay. So let's just pause for a second. What was that? What was that? What did he do? What did he accomplish doing that? Let's say you're Blabber here.
Split.
Increasing.
What is he doing? He walks into this lane like haphazardly, maybe because he was looking for. I mean, he was looking to cross, right? Obviously, and then it looks like his bottom lane told him, no, Graves is already doing the crab, or has already done the crab. So he says, all right, cool. So it doesn't look like they were going for a contest on the crab. They were just like, he walked in and then wasted a fair bit of time. Did he end up leeching away? He did. That's not
the keystone
proper.
of choice for almost all mid laners, so
Wait, maybe he didn't.
Nice little
Although I
sidestep.
swear it came neutral.
really
It did.
the keystone, but it's Spellbook versus Spellbook here in mid, becoming increasingly.
Okay, I don't know why Niski chose to kill that minion while Blabber was here because he was leaving, but that's fine, I guess. Yeah, it's fine. Whatever. I mean, Blabber was just going for the cross, right? And then I think he just like spent too much time on here. This isn't. I don't know why I'm harping on this. It's not that big.
For almost
deal.
all mid laners,
Whatever.
So
If this was like a
aggressive. As
repeated
some moments are
issue,
exchanged,
I'd
which I
say
do
it might be
appreciate.
it might be a big deal,
Yeah,
but it's
I
not
like Jensen's
the end of the
confidence,
world.
right? He is an incredible player, and despite the fact that Niski had a better spring split, I think that is hard to debate. I think Jensen was still a strong player for TL in spring, despite their poor showing overall. And some of the nice little movements there he had.
So as you can see, every lane on Cloud9 is being able to push
so good
rather freely.
Miniature sidesteps and avoiding skill shots, and the pressure that he exerted onto Blabber and Niski there delayed them from actually getting down and actually stopping Broxa from grabbing Scuttle on the bottom side. So it's these small things can make a big difference.
Okay, Zale, let's take stock to what you just said. I don't think Jensen actually did anything.
We can see C9 is trying to move towards the Scuttle, but Jensen, nice little sidestep.
Really good movement.
Okay, so Jensen did move in to into them, and he does sidestep the abilities.
Overall, he's going
But
to stun up Niski as well, get a little bit of a trade back. Paddle
is
Star
there?
does
Did he actually prevent Blabber from just walking down? I don't think so. If Blabber had the choice, he just chose to leave. Probably because Graves is already very close to finishing it.
connect.
based on the information he was
Spellbook
granted
here
by his bottom lane. So,
becoming,
and then
increasingly
that
He is an incredible
dematerializer
player, and
is
despite
weird,
the
but
fact that Niski had a better
because it ends up
experience, I think
giving
that is much
Blabber
of
extra
debate.
experience
I think Jensen
for
was still a strong
no
player
real
for
reason.
TL in spring, despite their poor showing overall.
I guess it's not the end of the world, but
And
it's just
some of the nice little movements there he had,
not optimal.
sidestepping some of those abilities, is kind of one of the things that Jensen was so well known for. He's so good at these little miniature sidesteps and avoiding skill shots, and the pressure that he exerted onto Blabber and Niski there delayed them from actually getting down and actually stopping Broxa from grabbing Scuttle on the bottom
So
side.
everything's
it's
going
these small things can
pretty
make a big
fine. I
difference.
mean, it's just
like
pretty
that, as you
even
say that,
for
Niski
everything.
bubbles him and then puts up the
Set
piece. He lands
is,
the
as
follow
I thought,
five-star,
doing
so
well.
certainly, again,
Cassiopeia is actually kind of down. I wonder, and it's from a neutral
game
state,
one,
so
but,
I wonder if that's just
certainly eyes around the rest of the map as well. So far,
not
so
CSing
good
as well
in
as he
pretty much
could
all
be,
the lanes. Licorice actually
but
has a
kind of
very
a
big lead, 1v1.
not that big of a deal. He's
Yep,
actually recalling. He's
already
going to
more than
teleport
2
back.
waves up
No, he was
on
recalling, and then
Impact, and that is pretty
he's
concerning.
just walking back
Yes,
into
Set
the
can have some of those really beneficial trades.
position.
It's really down to the Aatrox of like, can you actually hit the sweet spots? Can you
Looks like they're
get
going to
yourself
go
in a situation
for
where, you're keeping Set at range and
TL
landing
bottom lane is
multiple keys in a
actually
row. If you can
pushed
do
in the
that,
wave,
then, it
and
can
they are
go okay
going
for you.
to
But
return
if Set can kind
without
of get inside those sweet spots of the first
TP.
2 Qs,
Or JJ
land,
not allowed to
those
stagger
autos
his
into the
back,
auto resets with the Q, you really do win
or
those,
I guess was
those
taking a
trades
more
pretty heavily
greedy
in the early stages.
back in
Now,
a
as you can
bush
see,
that was warded.
Just going to delay the base a little bit there for Vulcan, as Sven is finally going to go back and get much
okay.
needed mana.
So
as you
Broxa
mentioned
then
earlier,
moves,
has the tier and an
gets
extra
the
sapphire crystal now alongside
Raptor
the,
camp that is spawning.
Dark Seal.
Genuine question. Yeah, okay. Because I wasn't paying attention to the minimap during that time. So then he clears his topside camps. This is about as efficient as he could be. I think that obviously like a second he could have started doing these earlier, but it's not the end of the world.
Dark Seal.
Yep.
So
Yep.
be feeling a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, he has a really nice base there.
And they
He was
know
sitting on
his
the Sapphire
pathing. I
Crystal
mean,
refillable,
they're
so he bought a full
pretty much
tier
completely
plus
tracked
that
Broxa.
Dark Seal. This is a lot of mana to work with now.
Broxa's
for
now
Sven.
moving towards the
He is
top
playing
lane,
Conqueror, so it is more about those extended trades.
as
expecting
makes
to be playing
sense,
presence
not
of
only
mind mode
because
too, so,
of
grabbing those kills and assists actually makes a really big
the
difference.
fact that you want to
And he
snowball
really
the
just tried to
Aatrox, but
stack up his
because
tier early and often,
your bottom lane
as
isn't
for
going to have
Castle,
priority.
once you
Now
have that Seraph's complete, once you
they
get that
are
transform,
taking
you
the
can get a
dragon
lot
for
more aggressive.
free.
You really do kind of need that shield.
It's not really a
as safety
result
net,
of
especially
priority.
when
It's
you're
just
not
kind of
playing a
Blabber
defensive
was
summer,
there.
and you
They
are kind of more
knew
this mid-range
generally
style
they knew where Graves was, and they knew where he moved. So
champion,
they were
playing
pretty
against
free to
a
take it
lot of
because they had a
champions
ward
who,
on the
when you're
Raptors, and
attacking,
they
you're
saw
gonna be in
him
their range
moving
of threat.
upward
If you're stepping
through
forward
this
and you
bush.
get gold carded or hooked by
They saw him
JJ,
moving
that
into
can
it
be
from the
very,
bush,
very
and then they
dangerous,
saw
so,
him moving out
will
through
be
the
key
bush.
to get that Seraph's done
So
early.
they knew where
Nice
he
early
was.
Dragon as well from Cloud9. Just
They not only
taking
knew his
Colonel off the
pathing,
map, they are
but they
always on
knew
top of their objective control.
where
One
he
of the
was
benefits
going
of having a jungle
after.
like Blabber, especially when he's playing something like Olaf, is it just
So he
feels
loses.
like
So
the
Blabber
Dragons
loses their
don't go
Raptors,
any
which
other
isn't that big
way.
of a deal because he's on Lee
Sven
Sin, and he
Vulcan
wants to
also
be
are
able to
gonna
get
the
these
lane pushed in, and even the farm up that once was
dragons.
ahead for tactical, but pretty quiet early game.
Like,
here,
yes,
so
it helps
I think expected
Broxa get to
between
where he
these two
wants to
teams.
be
Cloud9
because
have
you'll have
certainly, let off,
the extra gold,
wildly aggressive
faster,
early games,
extra experience,
except when
lead
openings are
faster,
presented to
but
them, I do expect the pace to
the
pick
whole
up.
of
That's, I think,
Cloud9
the
has
hardest
benefited
thing
significantly
to
more by the
Cloud9
Dragons.
right now is that once they start
And
picking up the
everything
pace,
hurts
they do not
TL if
let
they
the
cannot get a
gas.
lead.
Yeah,
This
I've
is
gotta
a
say,
fine
I'm a little bit surprised actually with
play.
how patient Cloud9 has
Broxa
been.
is.
I do think given the drafts, that you can.
I guess he
expect
was
a bit
looking
more of kind of
to
that patient
prevent
play,
a
little bit of a slower game, but
potential gank.
Cloud9, it's funny to say, but by 7 minutes they're often significantly ahead.
He
right?
ends up
They're
putting
often,
down a
clearly
ward.
in the lead,
Is
and
he going to
this
show
has
on
just
this?
been a bit of a farm game with TL out
No,
to
he
a slight
walks
gold
in
lead,
this
so
way.
I think Team Liquid
Yeah.
is going to be feeling pretty good about their situation early on. Jensen is now 6, so they can start to
That is
have
a
the Graves
fairly
look for
clean,
invades, knowing that you have the support
fairly
of this
fine. But if
that
he gets
allows
spotted at
Broxa
any
a little bit more
point,
agency
he's
to
going to
try to
lose
invade.
his camp, so
Cloud9
it's going to
has
just be
pressure, so they're gonna
symmetrical
move in, try to
anyway.
take away this blue buff,
I
and
don't
we'll see if
understand.
Cloud9
That
can
wasn't
get anything
blind.
back on
I
that top
don't
side
get
to
it. I don't get
make
the
it a bit
Aatrox
more of
here.
an even trade.
Then Broxa just walks
Blue
out. Yeah,
buff
he's gonna.
successfully stolen by
Okay, he's gonna
Broxa,
see
but
if he can cross over. I don't know if that's
which isn't even up
actually
yet, so don't worry about that. Still
possible.
have to wait as Blabber is just going to counter invade the blue, so he's
I
going
feel
to
like he
keep
just
up on
ruined
camp.
it, right?
And can get anything back on that top side to make it a bit more of an even trade.
I mean, Broxa was moving. They were already moving towards the blue side, regardless. Mostly because they must have thought, well, if these two are moving, because they did, the bottom lane did move somewhere in here. They had to think, okay, well, Broxa is potentially around, and we're the stronger. We could take this fight here. It will, and we also have the priority to move, so we can see if his camps are up and see if we can get anything. And then of course he confirms it with this movement here, where he could have just said, "All right, well I'm just gonna take Gromp. I'll take now Wolves is very difficult to take because it's very committal, but whatever. Could have taken the Gromp if he wanted to and looked maybe to dive. It would have been pretty difficult, but
Blue buff successfully stolen by Broxah, but we'll
he ends
see
up
if the
just losing
Rift
out
isn't even
on
up
his
yet,
camps.
so
I
don't
mean,
worry about that.
let's think about how this
You know,
goes
Jensen,
otherwise,
getting
right?
the draft.
Let's say that Broxah he takes the
wildly aggressive early games, except when openings are presented to them. But
let's say he takes
I do expect the
this camp and then recalls, goes over, takes his Grom, takes his blue, takes his wolves. Doesn't lose out on anything. He's actually high. He's got higher value, gold and experience. He's above tempo because he's moved. So let's say he doesn't. Let's say he takes the patient route. He sits in this bush. He puts down a ward and then backs. Let's say he takes that route. No, he still loses out on. He still might have to fight top side, which might be dangerous. Hmm. I mean, what is he gonna buy? He buys Caulfield's hammer, maybe, with how long he's been out. So
pace to pick up. That's, I think, the hardest thing to currently match Cloud9 with right now is that once they start picking up the pace, they do not relent off the gas.
So
Yeah, I've got to say,
Broxah,
I'm a little bit
they
surprised
realized that
actually with how
Niski was
patient
moving
Cloud9
downward.
has been. You know, I do think given
So
the drafts,
Broxah's probably here to
you can
prevent
expect a bit
to do
more
a counter,
of kind of that patient play,
and it
bit of
looks
a
like
slower game. But you know,
Cloud9
Cloud9,
chose to back
it's
off
funny to
on
say,
the
but
play.
by 7 minutes, they're often significantly ahead, right? You know, they're often like clearly in the lead, and this has just been a bit of a farm game with TL out to a slight gold lead. So I think Team Liquid is going to be feeling pretty good about their situation early on. You know, Jensen is now 6, so they can start to have the Graves look for invades, knowing that you have the support of this TF. That allows Broxah a little bit more agency to try to invade. Bot lane has pressure, so they're going to move in and try to take away this blue buff.
Niski's like kind of
We'll
floating
see if
around
Cloud9 can get anything back
the
on
river
that top side to
constantly.
make it a bit more of an even trade.
This is kind of very
Blue
similar to
buff
how
successfully
they
stolen by Broxah, but
played.
we'll see if the
They
Rift
have
Trail, which
played.
isn't even up yet, so don't worry about that. Still have to wait.
Niski's actually not on the invade, so
he's gonna
Viper's
keep
getting
up
this
on
on his
camps.
own.
Fortunately for the mid laners,
And
it
he's probably
means
gonna
that neither
move
of them are getting blue
over
right now.
to.
I don't think they'll be too
Gonna
worried
look
that
for
these
something
aren't
here, and then he's probably
massively
just gonna go to
planning
the.
champions.
No, it's
Herald
not
on
too,
his
too
own.
bad at this point for them.
This might just
we can see
the
Jensen
play
is
by.
actually going
Not gonna do it.
towards the Rod of Ages. I actually really like this build. You know, yes, sometimes.
Okay. Uh. Then I'm just trading blues. Just whatever, but. I wonder if they needed to at all. I wonder if it matters. I wonder what the logic is. Maybe, obviously, the Broxah moving down was a response to the way Niski played. He moved down. And you have to imagine that there was probably going to be some plan there. But Cloud9 had no idea where they might have had an idea where Broxah is, but they don't know exactly where he is. I think he just recalled actually.
Either of them,
Didn't he?
Even trade.
Did he?
Good about their
Wait.
patient play.
except when
Before the Crux.
But
What did he
they
do
could
before
control.
Crux?
Very
Guess
dangerous.
he
So
recalled. Why he has 2 control wards.
Yeah. They do not rely.
So Broxah's here off of the Krugs, which is fairly inefficient because there's nothing else on this side of the map, nothing to get. Probably why he moves into the blue. So he doesn't actually have a reason to reset, which I didn't note because I thought I didn't actually realize that he had reset before this until I thought of it just recently, just a few seconds ago. So he resets, he comes over here, he puts down a ward here, moves blue. He also avoids any conflict because you have to imagine that Cloud9 is going to be on this side of the map potentially. They're not moving. They're bottom lane, so
Land off the gas.
Yeah, I've got to say, I'm a little bit surprised actually with how patient Cloud9 has. That you have the support of this TF that allows Broxah a little bit more agency to try to invade. Bot lane has pressure, so they're going to move in and try to take away this blue buff, and we'll see if Cloud9 can get anything back on that.
I mean, they end up just trading, so it's
make it a bit more of an even trade.
Whatever.
Blue buff successfully stolen by Broxah, but we'll see if the Rift Herald, which isn't even up yet, so don't worry about that. Still have to wait, as Blabber is just going to counter invade the blue, so he's going to keep up on camps.
They know where he is. They know he's on the bottom side.
It means that neither of them are getting blue right now.
Pretty sure he just cleared out a ward. Yes, he did.
Massively mana-intensive champions.
No, it's not too bad at this point for them. We can see that Jensen is actually going towards the Rod of Ages. I actually really like this build. You know,
so it's not
people do
super inefficient.
Kind of
I just wanted to identify other lines of play, which is why I took forever on this one
I like to look at
fairly unimportant moment in the game.
Plus the stasis to really kind of use that ultimate aggressively, and it does allow him to really look to kind of function as one of the members that can engage for TL.
Okay.
So gonna be interested to see when he actually gets out and uses that first ultimate, because I do think that they want to be proactive about this and try to attack these side lanes as much as they can.
Yeah, Niski running back to base with heal. Actually,
Broxah skips over. He goes red Raptors and then skips over to look at the Rift Herald. Getting Scuttle Crab, and then he's probably gonna move back to his camps. I would imagine. Oh no, he's not. What is he doing? What is this? Why? Why? Why did he just leash that for Blabber?
He found a GLP on the ground as well. He's going to slow down Broxah. Oh, into the bubble. Could be a rough time. Ulti to get himself away. Blabber instantly flashes over. Licorice though can't quite combo it. And here comes Impact for Blabber. He finds it. First blood. He will die. The knockup from Impact is going to make sure of it. The flash up for Niski's going to get him out. But Licorice can't get out here. And I think they'll just fight instead. The cleanse is going to be popped. They're going to get the ulti in onto Impact. But Niski can't actually chase in. Gets the ulti back down. The flash needs to be used. But Impact is actually able to take him down. The Haymaker really nice as Jensen has controlled this fight wonderfully alongside his top laner. And Licorice is just dead now. TL, they turn it around.
Very well fought.
So, I could have been fine with, okay, let's put down a ward. I was super not fine with, let's do the Herald. What was their logic when they went for this? Was it, oh, we just pushed out Licorice and he's gonna have to teleport in? Like, he's guaranteed to teleport. Why wouldn't he?
Already? So maybe anticipating a fight coming up. TP back in from Licorice though. Impact actually had a very nice trade onto him, but Licorice is going to TP back nice and safe as Blabber will scout out the Rift Herald that has been started by TL.
So why did they do this? Let's forget the efficiency of getting his camps. Like, that's whatever at this point. I'm more concerned as to why, as a team, they decided this is what we need to do right now. There was no indication that that was available to them as an option. There was no indication that Cloud9 had left and is going to let them take this. There was no indication that they were going to win a fight, because what would that indication look like? They have TP on their bottom laner. So there is potentially more people here. Also, even worse, there's so many things wrong with what just happened.
Because I do think that they want to be proactive about this and
show me when. No, show me
aggressively, and it does allow him to really look to kind of function as one of the.
When does he use that?
Engage for TL. So gonna be interested to see when he actually gets out. And
of course, the gold shows now.
I do think that they want
when I am trying to understand.
Try to attack
okay, so
these side lanes.
He puts down a thing.
Niski running
and they
back
look
space
for a
here,
ward. They put down a ward
actually,
right
alongside his
there. So, okay. So Broxa used his trinket. I think he was around like the wolves or just like above the wolves, and he walked in. He used his sweeper. And then not Broxa. Blabber puts down a ward on the pit. That tells me, all right, I'm done. I'm going to my Gromp. Thank you. Thank you for coming. That doesn't tell me, oh, okay,
so swapped
you want to
some
fight? You want to
moves in the
scrap?
spellbook
All right,
already.
let's scrap. Like,
So maybe anticipating a fight coming up. TP back in from Licorice though. Impact actually had a very nice trade onto him, but Licorice is going to TP back nice and safe as Blabber will scout out.
what told them this was okay? They actually end up kind of coming out ahead of the ensuing play that they didn't really initiate because they were on this. I mean, you could argue that they initiated because they were on the Herald, but then when they're over here and all of Cloud9 are like, all right, we can totally win this fight, and then they just they didn't hard lose, but they lose the fight. That comes after they make that decision that they could have just backed off on. Not a TL win. It's TL scraped by.
The Rift Herald that has been started by
And the Herald
TL.
is almost certainly not going to be theirs
Q1
after
on
this.
to Jensen. Blabber is level 6 here. Niski found a GOP on the ground as well. Is going to slow down Broxa. Oh, into the bubble. Could be a rough time. Ulti to get himself away. Blabber instantly flashes over. Licorice though can't quite combo it. And here comes Impact, but Blabber, he finds it! First blood, he will die.
Okay.
But I got from Impact is going to make sure of it.
They
The
trade.
flash up for Niski's going to get him out, but Licorice can't get out here, and I think they'll just fight
And they go
instead.
for
The
this
Cleanse is
fight
gonna be popped.
anyway.
They're
That
gonna
was
get the
kind of
ulti in
under
onto Impact, but Niski can't actually chase in. Gets the ulti back down.
TL
The flash
Tower. They
needs
actually
to
end
be
up
used, but
losing
Impact
this.
is actually able to take him down.
Maybe
The
their
Haymaker
logic is we
really
could
nice
totally
as
win
Jensen has
this,
controlled this fight wonderfully
but
alongside his top laner.
they
And Licorice is just dead now. TL, they turn
I feel like
it
they
around.
only win that because of the tower. They only win this because the tower is there. They don't win this because they would have won the 3v3. And for the record, it could have been a 4v3.
Very well fought there by TL. They had the answer with the TF coming up towards the top side, and C9 getting really, really aggressive. I just don't think that they needed to hard commit on.
In fact, I actually want to see what was happening bottom lane too.
First level 6 here. Niski found a GOP on the ground as well. Is going to slow down Broxa. Oh, into the bubble. Could be a rough time. Ulti to get himself away. Blabber instantly flashes over. Licorice though can't quite combo it. And here comes Impact, but Blabber, he finds it! First blood, he will die. But I got from Impact is going to make sure of it. The flash up for Niski's going to get him out.
This is
Take him down. The Haymaker
fairly
really
poor. It was a one. It was a
They
1
turn
for
it
3, so
around.
that's not
Very
good.
well fought there by TL. They had the answer with the TF coming
So
up
the
towards
goal lead is
top
actually
side,
in
and C9
TL's favor.
getting
This play
really,
didn't need to
really
happen.
aggressive. I
It
just
didn't need
don't-
to. It was bad. It was. I think it was just. I don't know what the logic is. I'd love to ask. Because I think there has to be something. They didn't just randomly decide, oh, well, Herald time, boys, and just did it without any thought put into it. But I want to know what the thought process is. I don't. Maybe it's just so advanced I don't understand. But I think it's just a bad Herald. I think that Broxer should just be doing the camps, and then the Herald, the little Scuttle will spawn, and then you can contest Scuttle. You know, you can.
don't think and so members that can and it does allow him
think blue right now.
Cloud9 can get anything support of this TF. That allows Broxa a little bit more agency to try to invade. Bot lane has pressure, so they're going to move in. You know,
I need to identify.
It's funny
Okay,
to
so that's
say, but
Core
by stepping
JJ's
up the
ward.
situation, you know,
So what did he
A,
do with?
bot
Oh,
lane
so
have
he
the
put down a
support of
ward
this TF.
on.
That allows Broxa a little bit more agency to try to invade. Bot lane has pressure, so they're going to
Okay,
move in and try to
so that's
make it
whatever. But then he also puts down a ward
So he's gonna
where this ward is on the Pixel Brush on this side when the next objective is in 3 minutes. So that doesn't need to happen either. So he could have held on to that ward that he has. He could have held on to the ward that he has right there that he used. Sweepered, come in here, put down a ward here, prevented, and then or put down a ward on the Herald itself if he wants to. Put down a ward on the Herald, come back over, do his camps. If they contest, or if they look like they're going to do it, then you can go in if you really want to. But why are you aggressing onto it right now?
Going to keep up on camps. Fortunately for the mid laners, it means that neither of them are getting blue right now. But I don't think they'll be too worried. These aren't massively mana-intensive champions.
No, it's not too bad at this point for them. We can see that Jensen is actually going.
A very nice trade onto him, but Licorice can't quite combo.
It's like quickly turned into 16 and 15k.
Take him down the Haymaker. Dead now.
Alright, so
with the TF coming up towards the top side and C9 getting really aggressive. I just don't think that they needed to hard commit onto Broxa there. They had already essentially won the fight around the Rift Herald. The Rift Herald was very low and they pushed Brox out. So you could actually just take this Rift Herald pretty much for free at this point. You know, Niski is able to grab that Hextech GLP. He goes in, lands the slow. When this sleep actually lands,
yeah, they hard commit.
Rift Herald is yours. Look how low it is. That's like a Q smite, and the Rift Herald is already dead. Instead, they're flashing into the
That was absolutely 100% correct. He is right. But Cloud9 are a very scrappy team.
They are in a potential winning 2v2, but they're in
very scrappy. They're willing to take so many fights that other teams would not necessarily want to take. Some of them because they are bad fights.
And then Licorice here, knowing he's going to get kited out by the TF, decides to just try to go for that trade kill on Impact, not able to get it, and Team Liquid in a commanding position off of that. They even came back out, grabbed the Rift Herald, so this is going to be a first turret take.
So Teal actually ends up getting the Herald off of this play, and those camps have I don't know if those camps have respawned. I don't know what was Brox's. Yes.
The was very low, and they pushed Brox out. Awkward spot for that.
Now I need to. Okay, so he's at 60. Now he's at 70. So that's 2 camps, probably some extra.
1,000 gold already, and that's without the extra tower gold that is about to be cashed in as the Herald is dropped. We'll need a couple more hits now, and that is going to be almost enough to get it down. Just half.
Like a full minute that we just missed of gameplay. They end up taking top side. Licorice moved away onto the river so that he doesn't get caught out.
Vulcan straight into impact. He blast cones in.
Vulcan's a little
Impact is gonna get ultied up by the Thresh into the
dangerous.
Box. Here comes Niski as well. Impact maybe will think twice.
Impact's a bit of a dangerous spot, and then he's just dead.
Shutdown for Blabber.
So this is fine, and then they go back into the mountain, which is perfectly fine.
Why are you checking by yourself in that position? I think Impact kind of, you know, really just losing track of his position in this game at that point, and gives over a free shutdown. So Cloud9 going to be.
So I mean, here's the question: what actually is the reason why?
Objective, and all of a sudden that gold lead is up to almost 2,500. Vulcan straight into Impact. He blast cones in. Drake is going to go over. Impact is going to get ult.
I mean, we know as Impact, we know that he might be able to disturb Vulcan. I feel like his logic was, all right, I can kind of like annoy Vulcan, but then he didn't think about the priority that everyone else had on him. Cassiopeia's down here that can converge on him.
Up by the Thresh.
This is just a free kill for no reason. You TL.
But looking for this challenge here is
Cloud9 needlessly scrapped their way out of a free Rift Herald, which is bad.
Silly there from Impact. You already got the turret on the top side for free. Why are you checking by yourself in that position? I think Impact kind of, you know, really just losing track of his position in this game at that point, and gives over a free shutdown. So Cloud9 going to be able to have a little bit of
pretty whatever. Frankly speaking.
Flash hook not land.
Licorice should not be in a position to be winning and winning. But anyway,
give him the thumbs up as Niski's
from what I can see, Cloud9 aren't playing poorly relative to their current play. Which I think is the important question that I'm trying to answer here. You know, everything else is just a matter of reviewing the individual game. But we also, I'm trying to understand, is it a matter of Cloud9 slumping due to individual play, or due to what are they lacking? And I think the conclusion that most people come up with is that draft-wise, they haven't really found that identity, or they haven't continued the identity that got them wins. For one reason or another, I'm sure there are valid reasons why they did it, but why they've come to the conclusions that they've come to, but
So they are going to have to play it
Um,
out well. TL having a
it's
fantastic early game. This is really the most that I
not
think Cloud9 has
that
been challenged.
bad.
We saw FlyQuest
Like,
was able
as
to
Azale
win
was
some
saying,
fights early against
they're
Cloud9, but they were never
doing
really able to secure the gold lead.
well. TL
The
are
one
doing
thing that
fine into
TL
this
does
early
have to really
game.
worry about, though, is those stacking
But
dragons. They
it's
want to
almost
try
like
to
a
put an end to it.
free
It
early
is
game because
gonna
of
be
what
an
happened with
ocean
the
slow,
Herald.
which is,
Had Cloud9
oftentimes
decided,
just straight
okay,
up
we're not
GG
going
if
to
you
take this
give that
fight, we're
up.
just
So
going to
TL is
take the
going to have
free
to choose their
Herald.
moment. Whether it's going to be
Thank you,
3
Broxah,
dragons
for
or
the
4
leash.
is up to them. But
They would have
you know,
the
if you
lead
give
right
the
now.
third dragon over for free to
They'd have a
Cloud9,
massive
then you're
lead.
depending on Blabber just not even stealing one or a pick, not meaning you give it up at any point in the game. So I do want to see TL try to challenge at this next dragon.
Yeah, and even though the gold lead has diminished a little bit, it's only 1,000
So,
gold
I mean,
up now for
Cloud9
Team Liquid.
did the right
Stakes are
thing. They
very
moved.
high in this game. Not
Licorice moved
just
away
tying
from
first for Team
the
Liquid, but whoever
three-man
is the
top
first
side.
team to take down Cloud9,
Ends up
but
defending the
gets some
tier
sort of
2.
ceremony. Like, this
E9
team
is
has
able
looked
to get
unbeatable, even this
the
early
dragon
on
for
to the
free.
summer split after having such a
Broxah
strong
is
spring.
farming up now past
So,
Lee
if
Sin,
nothing else,
so
like,
this
you
is
just
all
want to be the
good.
first.
I don't know
Well,
what he's
especially
sitting
when
around
TL
for.
hasn't been
Go
getting
to your
that
blue
much
and
credit
Gromp,
for their 3-1
please.
start, right? You know, a lot of people on the analyst desk saying that they were more in the
Is it because of the
pretender
one?
category. I think
It
was
was
only
because of the one plate
Alorum
on
thinking that they were
the
maybe a real
bottom
contender
side, so
because they haven't
they're
had the
scared of
strongest
a potential
performances
dive.
against good teams, right? They got trashed
But right
by
now, I
AG.
mean,
They did beat TSM, who hasn't looked that
hold on.
good.
Let me just
You know, there has
track.
been some
Let me just show you what Broxah was doing for the last, like, since he killed this. Hold on. Since he killed Red.
Team has
So
looked
here he is.
unbeatable, even this early on.
Killed Red. So on the minimap, he is right here. If you look at the minimap, he's right here. Right here. Do you know what he does for the next couple of seconds? Well, let's watch.
To the summer
Watch.
split after having such a strong spring. So
Look, I
think
get.
nothing else,
Okay,
like,
yeah,
just
you
wanna
know,
be
we
the
don't want to.
first.
So he's on the board right
especially
now.
when
He gets the
TL
ward.
hasn't been getting that
Fine.
much credit
And he
for
turns
their
around.
3-1 start, right? You know, a lot of people
And
on the analyst
he
desk
kind of is
saying that
whatever.
they were more in the
Like,
pretender
he's in the
category.
bush.
I think it was only Alorum thinking that they were maybe a
Okay.
real contender because they haven't had the strongest performances against good teams, right? They got trashed.
They
by
don't.
AG.
Cloud9
They
do
did
not
beat
necessarily
TSM,
know
who
that
hasn't
Broxah's
looked
here.
that good. You know, there
He's
has
still
been some
he's
questions
still
about
he's
the
still
strength
flailing
of
around.
opponents in their
Still like,
victories,
do I want to
but
defend?
this silence is
All right.
really all critics. If you can actually take down
So just to more thoroughly show what
I
Broxah
think
did,
nothing else, like, you just want to be the first.
and I understand why
Well,
he's doing
especially
it. It's
when
not.
TL hasn't been getting that
It's just
much
funny
credit for their
to like look
Sort of
at
ceremony.
his
Like,
pathing.
this team has
I'm not saying that what he's doing is absolutely dumb.
looked unbeatable.
Like, he doesn't
even
have a
this
clue what he's
early.
doing. It's just, it's funny to me that this is a line of play that it actually makes sense in the context of the game, but it's just really funny. So Broxah kills it in the ward. It kills this red. Walks into the bush. Walks over here. Walks to here. Does the kiting thing with the ward. Comes back around. Back in here. Sits here for a little bit. Comes down. Over here. Comes back around here. Does a couple of these. And then finally leaves. He was doing it so they could float around and then stop a potential dive on bottom because it was a fairly low tower. It was very vulnerable. He didn't want his bot lane
especially when
to
TL hasn't been
be
getting that
needlessly
much
harmed
credit
by
for their
him moving
3-1
to
start, right?
his
You know, a lot of people on the
upside
analyst
camps.
desk saying that they
So
were
I
more
understand
in the pretender
the
category. I
thinking.
think it was only Alorum thinking
If that's
that
not
they
his
were maybe
thinking,
a
then
real contender because they haven't had the strongest
it's bad.
performances against good teams, right? They got trashed by
Pretty
AG.
sure that's the
They
thinking.
did beat TSM, who hasn't looked that good. You know, there has been some questions about the strength of opponents.
Also
in their
potentially,
victories.
maybe
But
pathing
this
screwed him there.
silence is really all critics. If you can actually take down C9 as TL,
Oh, you can actually see that his floating is a team call. He's going. He's like, all right, I'm gonna go now, and then they're like, nah, go, turn around, go back. So his like ring around the rosy of the red pit ends up looking even funnier
very clearly a contender. You're going to be tied with them for first place. You're going to
because he leaves and then he's like, all right, I have to come back.
So TL really want this win.
Jensen's ready, level 2. Niski's also here as well, though. Corday with a very nice stopwatch, but the timing not quite there for
screwed up
Niski.
the
It was
timing.
close gold card. It's going to hit the Zoe, but that's an easy barrier picked up there as Niski even pokes Impact back a little
Impact
more.
teleports.
Gives
You have
Licorice
Destiny
free time
Gate
on
in.
top
You have
lane,
Broxah
pushed the wave
walking
back out,
to it,
C9 will
and
stay
then
to take
Licorice
this
actually
tower
ends up
and
getting
equalize the gold
time
lead.
on top
Yeah,
side, which
gonna be
is
able to
really
tie
bad
that
for
up, and it's
the
also very important that they
Aatrox, who's
actually got the
already
ultimate
far
out of
behind
Jensen.
the
Remember, because you are going for this
set,
Roa build, you don't
and then they
have
end up losing
a
this
lot
tower
of early
anyway.
CDR, and that is going to mean that every time you get that TF ultimate down
It's not that
in
big of
the
a
early
deal,
stages, there is this big
the
window of opportunity
tower-wise.
where you feel safe
So
on
I
the
think that
map, where you're able to get
if
things done. So
I'm
Niski
TL,
made the
I'm willing
first
to
move.
say
Jensen
Broxa,
had
go
to
to your
answer
topside
it,
camps,
and as a
and
result,
we'll
they're
just
going to
sit.
be feeling pretty safe. But Niski could be in some trouble here as Broxa
Like,
has
sure, we
Dangerous
might lose
Bomb.
a
He's
couple
going
of
in.
minions,
Yep,
but
pops the cleanse just for the speed.
you have to hit that.
Ulti not there.
That's
Niski will just
look.
barely.
I didn't pick this game. I didn't pick this game to pick on Broxa. Okay, I'm not gonna mention it.
I'm surprised he didn't drop an emote.
I think
There.
that the
That
best
would've been the perfect
line of
time,
play for
for
TL is to
Penguin
give
Dad,
up
perhaps.
bottom tier 1.
He does use that one a lot, especially
Have
in lane.
Kaisa and Nautilus
Niski
sit
certainly
in
on
the
top
middle
of
of the
his
lane.
mechanics,
Use
both,
Twisted
in
Fate if you
general
need to,
gameplay
and let
more
Broxa move
importantly in emoting.
and get his camps.
Is going to spot a ward and slap it down. Sven's going to briefly moonlight as a mid laner here.
It doesn't.
Give
It's
that back over in short order.
just a
He's
loss
done
of
it very
efficiency,
nicely,
so
I
it's
know.
not
He's
the
kind
end of the
only player not
world.
really involved in all
But
the stuff that's been happening.
it
The game's kind of happening around him. It's
isn't
been fun.
necessarily
So
like they
20
didn't
CSI,
benefit
like
from
you
what
said,
they
he is
did,
kind of the insurance
basically,
policy here for Cloud9.
and they honestly hurt
So it does need to make sure he's retaining a
Impact
very
quite a
high
bit.
farm rate.
Because now this wave is
And
going to be
is.
pushed
He's
in even
over 10
further.
CS a minute already in
Now,
the game. He's very close
Licorice
to his
could
Leandries. He's
choose
stacking up that tier
wait
towards his
and
Ceres, his
stack this
Archangels.
wave.
That is
He
going to
is
be
not
looking
doing
really,
that.
really nice for them.
Um,
And you can also see that Blabber is actually going
especially
the
with
lethality route, so we'll be
Blabber
building
being there
towards
for a
very
little bit,
likely
he could have just
Edge of Night.
held
This
on.
does give you additional threat onto some of
The
the
dragon
special
is
members,
spawning
and if
though,
you can get
so I
back
can
onto
understand
someone
why
like
you'd want
Tactical,
to
you
make sure
can
that you
really
don't
look
have
for
that.
those execute type
But to be
kills,
fair, I
no
think
poke
that
whatsoever by
if
Niski,
Licorice
could be seeing
holds the
Blabber
wave,
fly in
slow
and
pushes
try
it,
to really
and
punish
then
on
pushes
that.
it out,
30 seconds until
so
the
that he
Ocean
can
Dragon.
travel
That
here,
is the
and then
key
you
objective now. Cloud9
force
already got the first two. TL
Team
really
Liquids,
has to put a
and
stop
then you
to it.
force,
And
because
that
you
is why
know
Cloud9
that
is already trying to set up early, but TL is trying to preempt this, trying to bring Cloud9 up towards the
because you know that Impact already teleported down. He's falling behind. If you slow push the wave, if you hold the wave and slow push it after this next wave, you are most likely to be able to walk to the Herald, get it, or not to the Herald. You're actually most likely to go to the Dragon for free. Yes, the Herald will most likely be lost in this play by if C9 do this, but Licorice is also just gonna have to teleport anyway, so it's not like he needed to hold the wave in a spot.
this top side with this Rift Herald take.
Well, don't really have much vision, but now they'll move into the area. Licorice going to have to TP, but is going to be spotted there to the left of the screen. TL, though, I think they wanted to fight here. They do get a stun onto Vulcan. Hook lands as well from Cord AJ, and Tactical
Vulcan actually just ends up
also
really dying. Licorice walks into 3 people and also dies almost.
All the carry splashes out, though, stays safe. As the Graves ulti's not enough, and now Impact gets picked up by the Paddle Star. And
Gets
everybody
hit
has
by
to juke the bubbles
a
now.
Paddle
Niski's still
Star.
hunting for the next few kills. Tactical there. Cord AJ not going to be spotted. Niski does have a heal
Very
now.
messy
Goes into
for
stasis
no
to be safe
particular
and pops the
reason.
summoner just to be sure, as Licorice fighting Jensen getting low.
The no particular reason is Team Liquid do not outscale you. You're willing to give him Herald to get Dragon.
But not out just yet. Cloud9 able to finally trade, but they will win the extended fight.
I guess you can argue that if they have Herald, they'll be able to
Licorice is
push.
going to start it up. He has lifesteal, so he can actually heal up off of this dragon. They get the Rift Herald. Now they're
They'll
likely
be able to
gonna
push
grab this dragon,
and contest
but
Herald,
you need Lee Sin to
or
come
sorry,
down. Blabber,
the
you
Dragon
can't recall now.
with
Broxah
the
could
Herald
still be out on the
spawned.
map. Both junglers act.
Just to take another second on the Impact thing. So Impact teleports down, which is bad. Then he has to walk back up. If Licorice holds the wave, the wave that was coming into him, slow pushes it, builds a wave, and then pushes for Dragon instead of pushing immediately to contest the Herald. Obviously, they get the Herald, and I understand the logic. You lose out on your tower if you potentially lose out on your tower. You don't necessarily always lose your tower, but you will certainly take a lot of damage on your tower if you lose out on that Herald. And you could argue that the Herald is linked to this Dragon because of how closely the spawns are, and because of the way that the Herald would be used to take the Dragon if you're TL, or to contest the Dragon. So it's not like Licorice's play was poor in terms of that minion wave. Just I think it's debatable whether or not he did the absolute right thing. I think it's fine if Cloud9 are going to contest that, but I also think that they don't necessarily need you contest that, and it didn't look like a really easy
Actually don't have smite,
contest.
but I really doubt that either one has been tracking or is able to track how many smite charges there are. I don't think Brox is even going to try to steal it because of that, except with ultimate, which isn't even available. So there's no point for him to go in. That's going to be an easy third dragon for Cloud9, and they are now at soul point.
So now Cloud9, I mean, gold lead is pinned up for the most part. They are at soul point. They have a herald that will allow them to probably escalate this lead into this gold difference into an actual lead. So
Off of
there's a lot of problems that just happened for
Rift.
TL in quick succession. So let's think about this play.
With this Rift Herald take.
Well, don't have much vision, but now they'll move into the area. Licorice going to have to TP, but is going to be spotted there to the left of the screen. TL, though, I think they wanted to fight here. They do get a stun onto Vulcan. Hook lands as well from Core DJ.
Okay, Vulcan just immediately dies. There's a 1v1 that's happening on the bottom side. Tactical actually runs away. Licorice is on set, so he doesn't die. Ben hits his ult on Impact.
Picked up by the Paddle Star, and everybody has to juke the bubbles now. Niski still hunting for the next few kills. Tactical there. Core DJ not going to be spotted. Niski does have a heal now. Goes into stasis to be safe and pops the summoner just to be sure. As Licorice fighting Jensen getting low, but not out just yet. Cloud9 able to finally trade, but they will win the extended fight just barely.
And they could just get the dragon.
Why did TL go for this? What was their setup?
Already got the first two. TL really has to put a stop to it. And that is why Cloud9 is already trying to set up early. But TL is trying to... You could be seeing Blabber fly in and try to really punish on that. But
so lane shoved for top side. Neutral lane state for bottom. Neutral lane state for mid. Bottom isn't necessarily relevant in the Herald.
30 seconds until the Ocean Dragon. That is the key objective now. Cloud9 already got the first two. TL really has to put a stop to it. And that is why Cloud9 is already trying to set up early. But TL is trying to preempt this, try to bring Cloud9 up towards this top side with this Rift Herald take.
Well, don't have much vision, but now they'll move into the area. Licorice going to have to TP, but is going to be spotted there to the left of the screen. TL, though, I think they wanted to fight here. They do get a stun onto Vulcan. Hook lands as well.
I feel like the setup wasn't super great by TL.
To it is the key objective now.
Because they're all moving, and you can see it, right?
Cloud9
here, done. You know where they all are. Here, 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 here. They're all moving toward the Herald. The set just pushed the wave so that that just pushes the wave, so it's obvious that he's planning on moving downward or going TP so that he doesn't lose out on minions.
Already got the first two. TL really has to put a stop to it. And that is why Cloud9 is already trying to set up early. But TL is trying.
What does he buy with this? He has his Bork. So he actually ends up getting Blade with the Rune King, which is also fine. I didn't consider that as well. So here, not here. So here, where he could have held the wave, slow pushed it, and then built it so that he could get Dragon. If he's got his Bork, or he's very close to his Bork, this is fine to kill. That is another mistake that I made in terms of understanding the play. No, but why did TL think that they could do this?
Try to bring Cloud9 up towards this top side with this Rift Herald take.
Well, don't have much vision, but now
because they were just already on it.
Going to have to TP, but is going to be spotted there to the left of the screen. TL, though, I think they wanted to fight here. They do get a stun onto Vulcan. Hook lands as well from Core DJ, and Tactical's able to take him down, but Core also low. The supports will not be traded off just yet as Licorice haymakers in, but he just can't fight all the carry splashes out those stays. safe as the Graves ulti's not enough, and now Impact
Cassiopeia
gets
gaining,
picked up by the
they're
Power
showing its
Star,
value
and
there.
everybody has to juke the bubbles now. Niski still hunting for the next few kills. Tactical there. Core JJ not going to be spotted. Niski does have a heal now. Goes into stasis to be safe and pops the summoner just to be sure. As Licorice fighting
doing,
Jensen getting low, but not out just yet. Cloud9 able to finally trade, but they will win the extended fight just barely.
And they can just get the dragon. Licorice is going to start it up. He has lifesteal, so he can actually heal up off of this dragon. They get the Rift
You just
Herald.
call this a draft
now
difference,
they're very
and
likely going to be able to grab this dragon. But you need
can't
this thing to come down. Blabber, you can't recall now. Broxa could still be out on the map.
Because that fight was about as good as it was going to get.
Smite, but I
Team
really
Liquid, right?
doubt that either one, has been tracking or is.
I think that wasn't bad.
And they
into stasis to be packed. Gets picked up by the Paddle Star.
I'm trying to determine whether Team Liquid properly estimated whether they could actually take this fight. It just feels weird. They immediately kill Vulcan. Licorice takes a huge amount of damage as he just walks into the opposing team. But then Impact just gets demolished.
The supports will not be traded off just yet as Licorice haymakers in, but he just can't fight all the carries. Splashes out though, stays safe as the Graves ulti's not enough, and now Impact gets picked up by the Paddle Star, and everybody has to juke the bubbles now. Niski still hunting for the next few.
Licorice is going to start up. He has lifesteal, so he can actually heal up off of this dragon. They get the Rift Herald.
I need this. I can't let it go. What are the items that we're looking at right now? So, one item, jungle item, 6 minutes on Rod, which means that I believe it's already become more efficient than the cost. And then just a Manamune on for Kaisa. I don't know, this is really unfortunate. I mean, I talked about this in the draft. This is just, it's so favored in Cloud9's. It's just so Cloud9 favored. Because at this point, they know that they need to contest one of the objectives. I mean, this fight basically it works the same. Whether they're there or there. The difference is that the opening is actually better. The geometry of the Dragon Pit is actually to Cloud9's benefit. So they're playing. So PL are playing to not only their own map benefit, being on blue side. They're playing to the one objective that they can use to contest the next one, which is like a kind of creates a dual objective that they can contest with. But the Manamune Kaisa is really really painful. Because she just isn't anywhere. She is hardly she's not adding as much as she really wants to in these fights. Because she doesn't have utility like the Cassiopeia does. Twisted Fate hasn't gotten his Bitchbane really important, and he also still wants to get that Rod of Ages up. I mean, you're on one item. Gold lead is evened. Maybe we can even go back further. So this is coming out of replay for the Herald. They move over here as dragon spawns because they don't necessarily want to fight dragon. And I don't know what the setup is and how everything was. I don't know if Cloud9 was already on bottom pushing the wave, and so they said, okay, we can just trade topside or not, but they don't want to fight. They don't want to fight a second dragon. They need to fight a third. That's their thinking. They're gonna need to fight a third. It's just so difficult. So difficult.
Everybody has to juke the bubbles now. In this,
Okay.
That looks very dangerous.
Oh, that's too far.
But you need Lee Sin to come down. Blabber, you can't recall now. Broxa could still be out on the map. Both junglers actually don't have Smite, but I really doubt that either one, has been tracking or is able to track how many Smite charges there are. I don't think Broxa's even going to try to steal it because of that, except with Ultimate, which isn't even available. So there's no point for him to go in. That's going to be an easy third dragon for Cloud9, and they are now at Soul Point. Off of a pretty dominant fight over by that Rift Herald. TL decides to kind of bet a lot on that Rift Herald fight instead of waiting for the dragon and looking to fight there, and they lose on both sides. You lost both objectives. You were down in the kills. Cloud9 is now Soul Point, pretty much caught in gold. And Cloud9 is just showing
so Cloud9 end up getting a good fight.
Really is
the story of a lot of their games, and now they are in a really good position to win the game.
They have such good individual players who are so scrappy.
Ooh, cool. That looks very dangerous. Takes the Blast Gun out to safety.
He gets out.
Okay, covering Jensen, who was splitting bot lane.
Nothing should be happening for the next 4 minutes, basically.
I don't know what the number
barring
is, by
some
the way, but,
weird mistake.
Even
This
after
next
just
fight is probably
five games,
TL's best
Cloud9's
chance,
Dragon Soul time take is probably some ridiculous number.
but I
Like,
don't
I can't-
think it.
I'm trying to
will
remember
help.
a Cloud9 game this
I don't know if the
split where
items
they
are
didn't
gonna
have all
be there
3
anyway.
drakes before 20 minutes.
They still have the
it's
Herald,
it's
so they can
pretty
still,
rare.
so they still have
They
a.
lose one or two here and there,
They
but
still have a
for
chance
the
of
most part,
getting
they're
mid
stacking
lane
them
tower
often
too,
and early. Blabber on,
which I think is
on really every
very
champion
available
just goes
for
pretty much as soon as it
Cloud9.
spawns, looks to
I don't know
take it
how they're
off
going to
of
use the Herald
mid lane
though.
control, off of bot lane control. They are very willing.
If I'm Cloud9, what do I want to use this Herald for? Obviously, I want to use it on mid lane, but how do I set that up to make it so that I can use it mid? I think you just have to 5-man it.
To go for those plays. Blabber did just decide to actually sit on the Ruby Crystal, went towards the Umbral Glaive for
You
more
could maybe
vision
argue for a
control,
4-man with
the
Nisqy on a
multiple
side, but I
Ruby
don't know why you'd
crystals,
do that.
He is likely now going back towards Black Cleaver. We've seen Licorice, rush for the Blade of Rune King. That means he's looking more for that 1v1. The extended fights with the Conqueror and Blade of the Rune King against Impact should give him the edge in that 1v1. But it also does mean that you're very squishy come team fight time, so he's got to be really careful about that. If you get gold carded, there is the potential to get burst down. He's not playing Merc Treads. He may have tenacity, with the Legend Tenacity, but that and really, no magic resistance, no health being built up means Licorice can get burst down if he's not careful.
And Jensen is very strong still. He's been farming well. 2 items already finished. The Rod of Ages is fully stacked. He actually went Lichbane instead of Zhonya's, but I imagine Zhonya's will be coming up next, but still perfectly serviceable.
It looks like they might look to spawn here.
Much better at side laning as well if you get free time on the towers.
And your burst really goes way up. When you have the stack deck, you have that passive E, plus your gold card damage, plus the Lichbane damage, you can start to really burst some of these members. And it's actually just going to be the Baron start. TL are looking to try to
I have the slightest idea what TL. What is with them with the pit? What is this pit? What is it doing to them? They've just started 3 objectives now in a row in this pit. Just like, we'll just try it. Why not? I mean, this one is probably just desperation.
this.
Because they're kind of realizing the situation they're in.
Rage Blade is complete, and they're just going for a sneak play, but Blabber
found it.
They're moving over, and it's been sniffed out. So CoreJJ,
but I mean, it's just so unlikely to work.
Already. This is going
to
like,
mean where did Tactical go? That's a weird thing. That's strange. Why isn't he mid lane? Oh well, we just get free mid. So you know how I asked, how are they gonna get mid tower? It wasn't. Oh, Tactical is gonna move to Baron to try to sneak it, and then they're gonna realize that he's there, and then they're just all gonna come for mid and charge the Herald's head into the tower. It was not how I thought that was going to go. I thought it was going to have some sort of setup by Cloud9. No, it just TL bit themselves again.
Showing their mid laner elsewhere and saying, "Hey, look over here."
You get the double charge on the
that's a game-winning
Herald
play if it works, but Cloud9 on top of things and they sniff it out.
Yeah, I did look for the blue trinkets. There was only one, but Sven, good game sense there, was just able to sniff that one out. Riftchild charge does happen on the tier 2 as well, so that damage will stick, even though Cloud9 don't take a tower. Licorice, you're in trouble.
So this is what you kind of pick Twisted Fate for, these exact situations. I wonder if this is going to actually result in anything.
Ooh, good ulti back, redemption down as well.
Set is
off the ground also.
fairly tanky. He's able to survive a long time, and now his team's here. Look at that.
Looking for the play, kicks them back.
He did end up dying.
But now's the lantern out.
So it looks like it actually does result in a kill. It did require Broxa coming in though.
Still very squishy. As I was talking about earlier, does get found out, does get burst down. He played it well, delayed as much as possible for his team to get there, but they couldn't quite get there in time. And Blabber committing the kick flash means he's not going to have that big playmaking up to try to knock in someone like Tactical or Jensen come the next team fight. So they have to be pretty wary about that. TL going to be really happy about that. That is kind of their first really successful side lane play, with Jensen and Impact grouping
That's
up.
basically the only, I can't pick Twisted Fate for these side lane plays, and you're just not making any,
and
basically.
With the dagger, going to be
building
towards Triforce.
Forcing on Herald
really
constantly.
Winning the side lane matchup against Impact, and TF is something you're always going to be having to look out for.
I like that Blabber also checked the Baron, like just in case, doesn't want to be caught slipping again.
So 35 seconds until the Dragon. This is going to be obviously big. If Cloud9 get it, there is literally zero chance for Team Liquid to win the game.
And its Dragon will be spawning. So we know both teams are going to be in for the scrap here. Cloud9 don't have to fight for it. They will.
So we can see here, 2 items, 2 items, 2 items. I wonder, I guess Impact just doesn't have enough for his death stance, which is actually really, really, really unfortunate. Really unfortunate. But just shy of the death stance. It's not the end of the world because I guess technically
this is their win condition,
even with
right?
his
this
opponent,
the game is probably over. But remember, Blabber does not have flash, and that makes his team fight a lot less threatening. They're going to be reliant somewhat on Niski trying to land poke, hasn't been able to do it just yet. And now if you try to funnel in here,
because of how they played
so Cloud9 doesn't have great positioning at this point.
Because of how they countered the attempt on Licorice, as Azale was mentioning, did lose flash. Blabber loses flash to kind of get a trade. Doesn't end up getting anything. Or didn't end up getting anything.
Hook not going to connect. CoreJJ
no hook.
Eats a little bit of damage, but not too much. He's relatively tanky. Vulcan flash plays
then
into Impact.
Vulcan
down
plays.
Brock, so they are maybe going to try and chase.
Okay, so this is not how this team fights, by the way, just for the record. No idea if they... I don't know why they're fighting this way. It might just be a natural inclination, and that's just how they end up playing. But this is not how that team fight goes. If I have Cassiopeia and Zoe, Set, Thresh, I'm not gonna like flash. I'm not trying to flash onto people. I'm standing my ground. I'm gonna find a position. I'm gonna stand my ground and say, walk into me. Walk into Zoe. Walk into Cassiopeia. What do? You want to walk into Set too? No. You want to walk into Thresh? You think you're gonna actually get anything off? The only one who would be demanding real action in this is Lee Sin. Everyone else is saying, please walk into me. Please, I dare you. And they were almost doing that, but just a little bit of extra greediness on the
Niski's like
on the
zoning the rest of
attempted
the carries. They're
initiation.
going to try and go on to impact. The hook's going to miss there from Vulcan despite Blabber getting on top of the top
Blabber
lane, but he just takes him
wait.
out.
Do that on his
Jungler with
own?
almost
Did he just do that all on his own?
Niski's like zoning the rest of the carries. They're going to try and go on to impact. The hook's going to miss there from Vulcan despite Blabber getting on top of the top.
Pretty much.
Takes him out.
Sven hit him with an
Jungler
E,
with
and that was it.
Solo kill there as a redemption down from Vulcan is going to keep the rest of them healthy. Niski though getting low. He's going to be chased by TF. That's an easy.
It's very unclean. Very
pick up
unclean
there for
by both
Jensen
teams.
as Niski
But
will fall. So now it's
I mean, T9 ended up getting the dragon for free, unless Broxa. Oh, he actually missed his.
He will fall. So now it's 4v4 around the dragon. But
Okay.
C9,
It's up
they're
to
going to rush
Broxa.
it.
This isn't okay. I'm not trying. This is not a clean game by Broxa, but
Broxa.
okay. I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
He's in for the
It's
steal.
fine.
He's not going to get it.
He doesn't get the
Overcontrol
steal, but
Cloud9. Hook up onto Broxa as well.
I'm not gonna
Liquid
comment
is
on it.
just tanking the rest of Team Liquid. He'll get one on the end. Broxa
So
is
they end
low,
up
cannot
getting
rejoin
the
fight.
ocean,
It's just the
and they
two
can take this
carries now.
scrappy fight if
TL
they want
will
to.
have
It
try
doesn't
and make
really.
something happen.
I mean, the game is guaranteed
Yeah,
theirs.
C9 is going to continue to chase you down. You got the Swifty boots on Thresh. They can look for these kills.
Good Q there by Blabber. W lands there. Good flare as well from Vulcan. Almost clips in max range. Cleanse is way too late for Jensen. And that's going to be an easy kill for Sven as he grounds and takes down the TF.
And Cloud9 may have gotten what they need to win this game
Okay,
at this point.
so let's just take stock of what just happened. Of what actually just happened. Not for like, oh, they got some kills and that was great and whatever, and you know, Niski died in the back. That's not what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is how did they play this? They went aggressive in a composition that wants to be walked into. They don't want to stand here. They want to stand like here, here, here. In fact, I think they had the opportunity to. Maybe.
As you get this, the game is probably
100%
over, but
did.
remember, Blabber does not have flash. And
No,
that makes his
no,
team
I'm
fight
wrong.
a
I'm
lot
wrong.
less
They did not.
threatening. You know, they're going to be reliant somewhat on Niski trying to land poke, hasn't been able to do it just yet. And now if you try to funnel in here, it could be pretty awkward. So Cloud9 doesn't have great positioning at this point.
Need more vision. Hook not going to connect. Claude JJ eats a little bit of damage, but not too much. He's relatively tanky. Vulcan flash plays into impact. Miasma down onto Brock, so they damage, but not too much. He's relatively tanky. Vulcan flash plays into impact. Miasma down onto Brock, so they are maybe going to try and chase the jungler here, but flash committed there.
So now
Vulcan,
they
don't
were
get a
put
kill.
themselves in a split position, so they don't need to. They shouldn't have done that. I think that honestly, staying here and saying, "All right, you want to walk in here? How are you gonna get here?" And if you do get in there, do you understand that you're gonna be standing in a specific spot so that all of us can free hit you? A little dangerous there as well. So there's a whole. They want to go for a pick, or they want to get into a better position, so they go for this, but they end up splitting themselves for no particular reason. This is not a very clean fight. This whole game was fairly unclean, but not horrendously uncharacteristic, which I think is very important to note. Because if it's not uncharacteristic of Cloud9 to do the plays that they are making here, while they are still dominant, because they went 9-0. The only reason I picked the TL game is because TL ended up winning the split, so I figured that among all of the competition during the first half of the split, TL would probably give them the most run for their money, and they kind of did. But this is due to mistakes that Cloud9 were making, not necessarily because TL was playing spectacularly. And then TL, of course, made mistakes back. So here, I mean, is anything happening here that's uncharacteristic of a current Cloud9? I think those are the big questions that I want to see, and
getting on top of the top laner, but he just takes him out. Jungler with
kind
almost
of-
a solo kill there as a redemption.
really, I'm
down
just doing this to
from
prep
Vulcan is gonna keep the rest of
for
them healthy. Niski, though, getting low. He's gonna be
the
chased by
TSM
TF.
matchup,
That's
because I
an
want to
easy
see
pick
if
up there for Jensen as Niski
there
will
are
fall.
things
So now
that
it's 4v4 around the dragon, but C9
It's up
they're
to
gonna rush
Broxa.
it.
during that
Broxa
game we can
is
see,
ready.
okay,
He's in for
oh,
the
there's a
steal. He's not
problem
gonna
with
get it.
this, and
Ocean
this
Soul
is
Cloud9.
they're
Hook
playing
up onto Broxa
differently
as
from
well.
how they're playing
Licorice is
here.
just tanking the
while I'm
rest of
watching
Team
this.
Liquid. He'll get one on the end. Broxa is low, cannot rejoin the
From what I can
fight.
tell,
It's just
playoffs
the
wise,
two
I don't think that
carries
they're
now of
playing
TL
that
that have to
differently
try and
from
make something happen.
what's being presented
Yeah, and
here.
C9 is going to keep continue to chase you down. You
But
got the
I
Swift
don't know
boots
if
on Thresh.
it's...
They can look for these kills.
Good Q there by Blabber. W lands there. Good flare as well from Vulcan. Almost clips in max range. Cleanse
Maybe they are
is
playing
way too
uncharacteristically
late for
different,
Jensen,
and
that's going to be an easy kill for Sven as he grounds and takes down
I think
the
it's just
TF.
important to
And
try to figure that out.
Cloud9 may have gotten what they need to win this game at this point. They've got the Ocean Soul. They're pinging towards the Baron. Remember, with that Ocean Soul, you're going to be constantly refilling the mana bar there, and it makes Cassio Baron take that much stronger. You have the damage from the injuries. You can just non-stop spam out these Twin Fangs and really rush this down. Broxa is just so low. I don't think he's really in a position to come over here and try to contest this, but TL
So
is
TL
moving
look
over.
like they're going to look for it, but I mean, they know that they really can't get it. That fight right there was as good as it was going to get for them.
Right now, Cloud9 maybe going to try and just fight instead of finishing the Baron, but Blabber will be able to finish it off. So Cloud9, they'll get it all here. Niski looking to chase on as Cloud9 also want to win the ensuing team fight, because this team is nothing if not greedy, but rightfully so.
So let me just go back here.
He's going to be chased
So
by
here
TF.
they get Niski.
For Jensen, as Niski will fall. So now it's 4v4 around the Dragon.
But it is a
C9
4v4. Broxa is on this side. He ends up going in. Licorice plays lineman and prevents them from really walking back in. So I mean, TL kind of screwed themselves out of this because they moved away when they could have just said, okay, Niski's not really going to be a factor, or he's, I mean, I guess even with minimal health, Niski's still going to could potentially be annoying. So I can understand why Jensen Destiny Gates over here, but I don't really know if you had an option to come into the 4-man anyway, because they're only real
it's just the 2 carries now of
4-man.
have to try and make
the only person who can actually come into the 4-man is Aatrox and live for any extended period of time. He needs to be there so that he can act as a front line so that other people can walk in with him, but that didn't really happen. So neither team really played those fights
and that's going to
cleanly.
be an easy kill for Sven as he grounds. Something here, Blabber's going to
Gonna
bounce
move
back to Licorice, and
past
they're
this
out
now.
scot-free.
Yep, it was really, really nicely done. And looked like, you know, with the initial positioning, I felt like TL could have had the advantage in this fight. You know, it's the initial flash in, trying to go on Impact. They saw that Impact actually uses dash, and that is what triggers this engagement. They go in, they try to get on top of him. They know that the ultimate is now going to be expiring, and they start to just move over towards him. TL hesitates to his dash, and that is what triggers this engagement. They go in, they try to get on top of him. They know that the ultimate is now going to be expiring, and they start.
I understand why Core JJ wouldn't want to go on to Licorice, but I don't know if this is at all better, because it then splits his team away from his, like, then Impact and Broxa can't walk into this, and you're going to be split away, and then now you can't walk back into this, even if you kill Niski here. Which is actually what ends up happening. So even if we say, okay, Impact is alive, and like everyone's alive, they get a 4v5, they kill Niski on this play. Niski's slightly to the right, and he hits this hook, and they kill him. Now the fight is split, and I don't even know if you have any options to get in. Maybe, I guess, if Impact is able to do something inside of the fight, but I mean, he found himself on the outskirts, and they picked off by basically just Blabber.
To just move over towards him. TL hesitates to actually fully commit with this pincer attack on both sides, and if you're going to be distracted by Niski with 3 members, well, the 4 members from Cloud9 can easily pile in on top of Impact and take him down. And yes, there is a nice trade kill up on the top, but look at this. Core had to actually flash in front to block that Q. They have to use the TF ultimate, they have to use the Kaisa ultimate, so that is, you know, flash and 3 ultis to kill off the Zoe. So it all came down to that smite, and that's really the only hope that TL had from that point. After committing so many resources, they weren't going to be able to really win the fight. They had to get that smite. Blabber nailed it. Broxa was not able to take it away, and in the ensuing play, they lose not only the Ocean Soul, they lose the Baron. And we know how damn good Cloud9 is at closing out games once they get the Baron, and generally speaking, it only takes them 1.
Yep, and they're getting a lot of damage done already.
So they're ignoring the bottom side, they're letting it go. They're pushing 4-man mid, they have 1 man on top side. A little uneven in their movement, because Tower goes down before set is even on this tower. In fact, it pretty much went down even with the tier 1, so
It over and they'll take that one nice and easily. We'll see if
I don't know
TL
if there
can
was
protect an
really any
inhibitor
way
tower.
to
That
prevent that from
tends
happening,
to be a win,
probably, but
like you said,
just something
don't
worth
take
mentioning.
much with their first Baron to finish off the game, so the likelihood of TL defending one of their inhibitors seems low.
Yeah, we'll find out. I mean, the siege isn't the best.
To be fair,
Give it a tower,
here now they have the option to kind of wait around here and do a split where Blabber could also move back if he gets Thresh Lantern back here, and then you have the 4-man here, the 1-man here, and then you have a push where you could set up a 2-man here and a 2-man or a 3-man here. So you're pushing both ways at once. So this was 100% in their control because it was
like
available
Cloud9
right now.
Don't take much with their first Baron to finish off the game.
They're choosing to do 5-man top,
likelihood
which
of
is
TL defending one of their inhibitors seems low.
I don't think as optimal
Yeah,
as you
we'll find
probably
out.
want
I mean,
it
the
to
siege
be.
isn't
Because
the
I think
best.
splitting
Kind of reliant on
TL
poke here
is
from Cloud9.
your
If they
best
can land
bet.
the poke, they can move forward, but you don't have a lot of long-range auto attackers to actually be able to knock down these towers. So we'll see.
And
if they
as
can hang on.
Zayla's
Cloud9
mentioning,
also,
they don't
I think,
really
has a
have
lot of gold to spend.
super
Licorice
great
has the
siege.
same items that he did when he actually died top lane. So he has a ton of
They
gold.
can use Niski's Zoe to kind of push them off, but that's about it.
TL will see if they want to defend the structure past it. Redemption is down. Decent ult there for Broxah for a bit of poke. But
Okay, I don't know what that
between the Redemption and the Ocean Soul, they
ult
don't
was
really
by
need to stop
the
their
Graves.
siege.
Okay.
And they'll just let the Baron up cannon minions.
I think they just walk out.
There. Impact does find a knock up.
I feel like this is something that
bounces away.
Cloud9 do fairly
Cloud9
regularly.
gets the K4,
They'll
take the inhibitor
go
and get
to
out.
a
Gonna be able to grab
side
that
lane
mid lane.
inhibitor, take
There's
it, and
only
then
one
walk
more
out.
outer tower standing
try to walk
there
out.
for TL down in that bottom side. Cloud9 will reset. We'll see just how much gold they actually have as the synchronized base cancels. They see the TF ultimate going out. They want to make sure no man is left behind to actually get taken down, and it will be Jensen just ulting down to the bot lane, trying to push out waves and delay, because he knows that that next target will be that bot lane tier 2.
Triforce now for Licorice as well, so even more
lots of gold.
fighting
So
power.
Elder is going to be the big fight
Transform
now.
to
I don't
Triforce,
think there's
so
any
he's
way
sitting
for
on quite a
TL
lot.
to play this.
But Cloud9,
that
like you said, just going
will
to
result in them winning.
The map, and we'll see what defense TL can muster. The gold lead isn't that significant. It's only 2,000 up, but with how much momentum, with this Dragon Soul that Cloud9 have, with all this room they have to maneuver, I mean, they can threaten the Elder Dragon in a minute 15 if they even need it.
And it's
Can't
just
imagine
really
anything's gonna
burst someone
happen.
out completely. You know, if you have an extended fight, poke is just completely meaningless. And
They end
that
up
really
getting
changes how you have to
top
team
side
fight.
should
You're no
be
longer
pushing
can just
without
throwing out wild cards
Licorice. I'm not sure why he's
Kai
up
said
there.
mana, so the poke it's beneficial because you can just heal that right back up with Ocean Soul.
Ooh, Blabber may be caught here. Good amount of
Blabber,
He's going to hop back towards Volker.
Ymir dies.
Again, though, he's going to save the jungler. Ulti not enough.
I have no idea why is he walking into them.
Go forward. Trade, even if you trade, 40% of your health for 20% of theirs, it's beneficial because you can just heal that right back up with Ocean Soul.
Ooh, Blabber may be caught here. Good amount of burst, but he's
Why
going
did
to
he
walk
walk
towards Volker. Redemption down again, though. He's going to save the jungler. Ulti not enough from the Graves. And now
why is Impact on the other side of the...
to try and ulti someone down. He already popped Flash and ulti, but Impact, can he find
now
something?
they're
He's going to go Drowsy. That's
on
not the way
other
to start.
sides, and
Hook
then
is gonna
Impact
land.
just
Hook's gonna
dies.
ride in, and that's going to be a pickup at Licorice. He's just going to go
it
for
was
the
like a
dump.
split call.
JJ, he goes decent haymaker there to get some damage down, but he will fall. To save the jungler, ulti not enough. Caught here, good.
Why did why did Blabber come in here?
Because you can just heal that right back up with Ocean Soul.
Ooh, Blabber may be caught here. Good amount of burst, but he's going to hop back towards Volker. Redemption down again, though. He's going to save the jungler. Ulti not enough from the Graves, and now the poke's going to rattle in. Sven is looking to try and ulti someone down. He already popped Flash and ulti, but Impact, can he find something here? He's going to go Drowsy. That's not the way to start. Hook is going to land. Poke's going to ride in,
I
and
think
that's
that
going
was
to be a
just
pickup at Licorice.
pretty
He's
bad
gonna go for the
TP
dunk.
by
He goes decent haymaker there to get
Impact.
some damage down, but he will fall in the back half of that fight. But the Poke, it's unrelenting. Like you said, Isaiah, when the fights don't end, the Ocean means you don't have to stop. Blabber going to faint in and
I mean,
faint out.
there's a couple things wrong with the sequence that happened in the last like 2 minutes. I don't know why.
He gets one, gets three! A triple kill out of Niski, popping the cleanse.
I don't know why
Jensen
used
his
his
through bottom as well. In
Destiny
fact,
to
I think it's time
look
to end
out
the
for
game.
people as they were leaving.
They
I
just
don't
wanna end it
think there's
right
any
here,
chance
right
of
now.
him
Niski
catching
and
anyone or
Jensen
them
were
being able to
exchanging
get anyone.
words before the game. Who's the
I
best
don't know what
mid
that
laner
was really
now?
about.
Niski is
He
looking to
could have
prove
used it
that
there to
with plays
reposition
like
so that they can
those.
actually use the
Really
Impact's
taking over in the final moments
TP
here.
properly, but I
Look
mean,
like they're gonna push through and
it's
win.
so difficult
Yep,
to
is he
win
gonna
that
say,
fight
"My
anyway,
team's
so
better,
I
but I'm better too"?
doesn't really matter.
Jensen gonna be dove in his own fountain as Vulcan plucks him out of the air. That's gonna be the bot lane ace to finish off another win for Cloud9. Now 5-0 as they take down Team Liquid.
Okay. So this one was a much longer review, mostly because I was taking a lot of time. I took a lot of time with the draft. Probably an excessive amount of time, but I mean, Cloud9 have remained very scrappy since here. Since their dominant run, I mean, spring split. And draft-wise, I mean, they hard out-drafted TL in this case. So I think what I want to do is find a draft that I could argue is not beneficial to Cloud9 during this dominant run, if I could find one during the 9-0. And then go from there. See if that can make a difference. But it also has to be against a team that could capitalize on that draft difference. Either way, I think that from what I can tell from this one game, Cloud9 aren't. If you said that this happened, last week during playoffs, I'd say yeah, okay, fine. It might be uncharacteristic of where TL is at right now, but it's pretty consistent with where Cloud9 is at. So, maybe you can chalk it up to the rest of the teams getting better, more disciplined, but not ready to make that conclusion just yet. We'll have to see. Evan Rojo. Never. Yep. Okay. Bye.